Hey, everybody, it's Scott Steen with winnersandwhiners.com, welcoming you to the Wednesday edition of Today in Sports Betting. And of course, today is Wednesday. It has been this show has been rumored. We've been talking about it. We've been threatening to do it. Finally, it is here. It is part one of our 19-part series. No, our two-part series on the NFL, looking at the playoff odds, the odds for each team to make the playoffs. A few of the plays that caught our eye that we think are good values. And, of course, as always, a few of the plays that we think are terrible values. And to help me out with the NFL, he is the one, the only. He is back from his stint as master of NASCAR and golf. He is Scott Reichel. Scott, it is hump day. How are you, buddy?
Doing pretty well. I can say that I've stopped being a quote-unquote master of NASCAR or golf because I've been handicapping the upcoming match between Tiger Woods, Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, and Phil Mickelson. So I've actually been looking into some props there on my own time. Found a couple that I like. Potentially we can go over those later on in the week, maybe briefly. But that's mostly what I've been doing. Other than that, still playing poker, still keeping busy. And I know that our NASCAR show, which I thought went really well yesterday, I know that I ended up giving out Eric Jones for a third of a unit to win the whole thing at 22-1, and he went all the way down to 18-1. So you already got a couple of extra dollars of value there. But we know the Xfinity race got canceled yesterday. Hopefully the NASCAR race is going to be able to, happen tonight,
Yeah.
and I feel like it should. So if you got nothing else to watch on Wednesday night and you need something to pregame your Korean baseball highlights or your Korean baseball games that you have money on ESPN at 4 in the morning, NASCAR is probably your best bet tonight. So I'm probably going to end up watching a little bit of it.
There you go. We, as always, Scott and Scott drive the lines. So as soon as we got on
shakers over here.
Yeah. As soon as we got on Eric Jones yesterday, you just knew it was a matter of time until the odds plummeted. So I hope you got some of that 22-1 before the show drove that line down to 18-1. So, Scott, first of all, we're going to play a little NFL this year. Are they going to have a season?
I think they will. Everything that you've heard about recently with New York and Texas and Florida and some of these other states, they're all starting to, I want to say, sacrifice themselves for the greater good of sports. I don't want to make it sound that simple or simplistic, but that's basically what's happened, where you have some states who basically just decided, you know what, let's bring some stuff back. And it seems like everybody's just going, yeah, I can't really say no to that. And it seems like Florida has been the first state or the most active state when it comes to welcoming other sports back. They've already had UFC stuff going on there. They already have been attracting the NBA. Seems like the NBA is most likely going to at least resume part of its season in Disney World, so that's definitely going to be an option in Orlando, and it seems like there's more and more traction with that gaining every single day, so that's a good sign. You also have some states like Arizona who've been rumored to headline, or to host, I should say, the UFC 250 card, which is going to be coming up in roughly a week or two. So you have a lot of different states that are starting to, I don't want to say ignore their original lockdown procedures, but they seem to be a little bit more lax when it comes to following them for the sake of sports. So in terms of football and everything like that, definitely is a good sign considering the fact that football should be starting in a couple months. So hopefully by then, everything else in terms of the hectic nature will be slowing down to a crawl.
Is it true we could call Florida the honey badger of states at this point?
I think you could, but I think in order to cement that, you need Tyrann Mathieu to play for either the Dolphins or the Buccaneers. But I feel like you could make that argument.
Okay, good enough. It's going to be interesting to see what gets open here. Okay, now Scott, let me ask you a question. If you had to go for a year with no haircut or no sports, what would you choose?
I'm picking no haircut.
Okay.
And the reason why is because for some reason people think that man buns are fashionable. I don't, but it might buy me a couple of extra months. So maybe I can get by.
Now, do you fro up, or does your hair actually grow long?
I would say that it grows more thick. It grows more. I can't really explain it. It gets more curly than it does in terms of froish. So okay. I'd say long time peak hair, probably more Seth Rogen-ish, which is not really a great thing, but it's a staple. And I'm not going to start growing it out. And it's not going to start looking like undercover brother. So,
Is that
you got to cut your losses every now and then. I wish it grew out that way, but no, it just gets very curly, and I try to cut that before it even happens.
Undercover brother, the great Eddie Griffin,
Yeah, classic.
Kansas City guy. We grew up on the same comedy stages together. He used to be kicked off the Kansas City comedy stage on a rarely basis. They hated him here.
I think he turned out okay.
Did okay.
There. A little bit, yeah.
He did it the hard way, man. He went out there to L.A. He was slept in his car. He worked as the door at the comedy store for Mitzi Shore and all them. So
all worked out.
God bless him. God bless him. All right, so let's talk a little NFL. By the way, what's the longest you've ever had your hair?
I don't know. I can't say I've ever actually measured it, but okay. I could say the longest I've gone without cutting it, definitely in college. Just because it was freezing outside, I didn't really want to do it. So probably, I'd say in 6-7 months, maybe tops.
Okay. Yeah, when my first daughter was born, my hair was down halfway down my back. I had a big beard, and halfway down my back was my hair.
Nice.
Yeah, long time ago, buddy.
Did you play in Leonard Skinner cover bands or no?
I did not. I was doing stand up, and I had to deal with the NFL. I had Zubas for all 32 teams. Cool. I wore Zubas and team gear.
Okay.
So yeah, pretty cool stuff. So anyway, let's talk about a blast from the past. So let's go back to the future here and talk a little NFL. We're going to do it conference by conference. You know what? I did it again, Scott. We're going to do division by division and talk about anything that catches our eye. Of course, a lot of these things, they're going to be unplayable. They're not going to be anything that's going to light your fire too much. But in the meanwhile, let's take a look here. Start in the NFC East. And with every division, I will talk about the teams that they match up. As you all know, the way the schedule works, maybe you don't know, in the NFL, the way the schedule works is each team from the division will play, of course, every team in their division twice. They will play 4 games against 2 other selected divisions. So in other words, they will play every team in 2 other divisions, and they will play the corresponding positional team in 2 other divisions. In other words, if you finish first, you're going to play 2 games against 2 other first-place teams, not in those other 2 selected divisions. So probably not the greatest explanation, but I think you guys will figure it out as we go along here. We're going to start off in the NFC East. NFC East this year matches up with the AFC North and the NFC West, starting with the Cowboys, and this is the team that has been picked up. We'll start with the odds. Cowboys and Eagles are basically the same. Cowboys, they have the addition, since they finished second place, they will play the Falcons and the Vikings additionally. For them to make the playoffs, the odds are yes, -200, and no, +170. And Scott, I want to group the Cowboys and the Eagles together because I'm not sure they're both going to make the playoffs. The Eagles have the exact same odds. Yes is -200, no is +170. Eagles, of course, play the first place schedule, so they get the Packers and Saints as opposed to the Falcons and Vikings. That seems to be a little more of a tall hill there. What do you like here? Do you like both of these teams? Do you like one of these teams? Obviously, one of these teams is going to win the division. So what do you do with the other one, and which one do you like?
Well, the truth is that I think the Eagles are the more consistent play or the safer play just because of the fact that they've been there before. They have the same coaching staff. You don't have really many questions about their defense. You have a question about their draft selections in the first 2 rounds. But for the rest of the team, assuming Wentz is healthy, I think we can agree that with this team making it last year with basically no weapons at all, this team should be able to make it back. So I think the Eagles will make the playoffs. The Cowboys, their defense is awful. And I'm not ashamed to admit that because I support their team. The secondary is a joke. There's no real other way to put it. They lost Byron Jones. Their safeties, who they ended up losing, I wasn't a fan of anyway. I'm not a big Jeff Heath guy. But their defensive line is, I'd say, decent at best. Their linebacking core is really good, but you don't know if Van Der Esch is going to be fully healthy, which is a concern. And the secondary is terrible. Having said that, if you look at the strength of schedule for the upcoming season, the Cowboys actually have the 3rd easiest schedule in the entire league, which ties into what you said about how the Eagles have to play a couple of other first-place teams, and the Cowboys do not. So the Cowboys have the 3rd easiest schedule in all of football. I think they're both going to make the playoffs. In terms of division winner, I'd probably go with the Eagles because even though the Cowboys have the 3rd easiest schedule, the Eagles have roughly the They have the 8th easiest schedule, so it's not like you have one that's significantly easier than the other one, but one still
Right.
is. I think both teams are going to go 10-6. I talked about before when we did our season overview video, I'd say about a month ago or so, I had the Eagles as my pick to represent the NFC in the Super Bowl. So for me, I think both teams will make the playoffs with the Eagles winning the division.
All right. I'm gonna fade you there, buddy. I'm not an Eagles fan. I think they did it last year with mirrors. I don't think they would have been a playoff team in any other division. Defense is fine. I am not impressed at all with the weapons that they have on offense. I'm not impressed with Carson Wentz. Well, you know what? When he's healthy, he's fine.
He was healthy last year before the playoffs. You just need him to get there to the playoffs. There's always a question mark, especially with I don't even know who their backup is. Is Jalen Hurts the number one backup? You still got Nate Sudfeld back there. I mean, it's not really great if Wentz gets injured.
And they've got the AFC North, which I would call that a division they're probably going to maybe, I would say, split. Possible they could go 3-1. I don't think they're going to beat Baltimore. And then they've got the NFC West. I think that's another division where they split. I think they lose to the Niners and probably one of the other teams as far as an away game goes. Yeah, I'm gonna take a little. I don't have any interest in the Cowboys at -200 for yes, but I do have a little interest in the Eagles catching +170 at no. So I'm going to start off this. We're going to start off with a bang here. As I'm going to completely fade your Super Bowl pick and say they missed the playoffs.
Well, they were my original Super Bowl pick. I can't say that I've looked much into the lines recently, but I gave that out a month ago before the draft, etc. The issue that I have with the NFC is I just feel like it's so top heavy that there's not really much value on any of the teams that are one of the favorites. So, for example, the 49ers, even the Packers, who I will get to in a minute with the Packers. But as a whole, I feel like there are a couple of the hierarchy of the NFC is just so lopsided, where in betting markets, you're mostly looking at the 49ers and Saints, who are getting pretty low odds. And then if you wanted to find a potential sleeper with some dark horse candidacy likelihood, I think the Eagles are a decent choice for that. So that's why I picked the Eagles to make the Super Bowl.
Okay, so it's a little bit of value.
Yeah,
as well.
It was mainly just a value play. That was my thoughts on that.
All right. So speaking of value, is there any value in any the other two teams that are in the division? Any long shot money that interests you? +450 on the Bears, or excuse me, on the Giants, and +700 on the Redskins. Either one of those get your juices flowing.
You see, I think the term value shouldn't just apply for plus money. And the reason why I say that is that the Giants are -450 ballpark to not make the playoffs. Am I the only one who thinks that number is still just too low? That number should probably be around like -550, -600.
Well, according to the folks at Bet Online, you're absolutely right, because I've got it at -600 and +450 for the yes. So if you've got it at -450 somewhere, that probably is pretty decent value on the Giants.
Yeah, the Giants on DraftKings, this is where the local bias being in New York or being in the East Coast pays in. The Giants on the no in DraftKings is -360.
Oh.
So, I mean, you can really shop around, find some middles there, because I believe we just found
Wow.
Yeah, I think we just found a middle, and -360, that seems like a must play for me. This team is best case scenario the third best team in the division, and they could arguably be fourth. I still think they're better than the Redskins, but the gap between the top two teams and the bottom two teams in the NFC East is so just wide. -360, I feel like that line should be closer to -550. Am I wrong for feeling that way?
Oh no, dude. Yeah, like I said, I've got it at -600. I would play -360 all day long, because the Giants, not only are they a terrible team, they have kind of an unlucky third place schedule where they match up with the Bears and the Bucks. So good luck there, as the Buccaneers ended up finishing behind Atlanta. And of course, now they have Tom Brady and Gronk and Steve Grogan.
You also have to wonder with I know DeAndre Baker is probably going to get suspended for robbing somebody in the middle of quarantine, which is one of the stupidest things I've ever heard. Having said that, he was terrible to begin with, so I don't think he's really going to make much of an impact for the team. But you still have to wonder, and the main reason why we why all of us took the under on the Giants team total. Do we think Daniel Jones is going to be playing all 16 games? And with that offensive line, we don't. We think he's probably going to play closer to 10 or 11.
Yeah.
So, I mean, with their backup quarterback options there, I think best case scenario, the Giants go 7-9. And that might be peak season.
I was gonna maybe say 8-8, but yeah, I don't really see them
with a new coach as well, with Joe Judge. That's not exactly an ideal circumstance for the offseason.
Run for your life, Daniel Jones.
Yeah,
run for your life. Skins, I've got them no at -1,000. Yes at +700. They have the fourth place teams. They have the Lions and the Panthers. Oh my. Anything there for you?
That's a pass. For me, I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. I think the Redskins are going to finish somewhere in the realm of 4-12, 5-11. So I don't even think it's going to be a sweat. And with Haskins at quarterback, I can't imagine this team actually being really competitive over the course of the season. I'm more scared if I was facing Case Keenum than Dwayne Haskins. That's what the bar has been set for me with Haskins. I'm really just not a fan of him. And Keenum has shown flashes at times of being a mediocre quarterback. So
being an average quarterback.
Yeah, but I mean, I think he's shown more than Haskins has. I think we can agree on that. So if you're not saying much at all, but that's pretty much the comparison you have there. So the Redskins, no, I think they're going to be terrible. I don't think there's really much value there. But the thing about the Giants that you can get that local tax to work in your favor, the Redskins don't apply because nobody really cares about the Redskins in this area. So you're not really going to get much of a steal on any single prop there. But my favorite play in this division, if you're breaking down a best bet scenario, it would easily be the Giants no at -360. I mean, that's a gift from above.
Yes, it is. Yes, I completely agree. I think at best, two teams from this division go to the playoffs, and under no scenario that I envision are either one of those teams the Giants. So, and of course, Washington, D.C. continues to put out a disappointing product.
Mm-hmm.
All right. That's pretty much sums up the NFC East for me. I've got, kind of the same feeling. We differ a little bit there on the Eagles, but both of us think that it's finally going to be the year for the Cowboys. This is it, buddy. This is they finally, of course, so you like the Eagles to finish in front of the Cowboys, basically?
The thing about the schedule and the overall roster, I think the Cowboys have the better offense by far. In terms of weapons, in terms of offensive line will call a wash. It's Frederick. Yeah. But I think Wentz is better than Prescott. I think the receiving core is better for the Cowboys, though. And I think Elliott's the better running back between him and Miles Sanders. I think the Cowboys are a better offense. However, with the Eagles getting rid of Darby and them acquiring Darius Slay and getting people healthy again, I think the Eagles' defense is miles ahead of the Cowboys. So from a consistency perspective, I would lean to the Eagles, because I feel like the Cowboys can only win games one way, and that's by scoring 30-plus points, giving up 28-plus points. Right. So I feel like they're kind of one-dimensional in how they're going to win games. They're going to be a dead-over team, in my opinion, for the Cowboys. But I feel like the Eagles have the ability to win games, whether it's high-scoring or low-scoring, which should be more beneficial for them winning games during the course of the season. And I think the Cowboys might end up struggling, maybe outdoors or in some poor conditions, because of the fact that their offense might struggle, whereas their defense should pretty much struggle no matter where it goes.
You know, as a side note, what do you think about the built-in advantage the Cowboys have every year by playing their Thursday game at home on Thanksgiving? Statistically, the Thursday night game is the hardest game to win as a visiting team. Is this an inherent bias that's built in every year for the Cowboys? And that's kind of a rhetorical question. The question is, do you do anything about it? Do you just let Detroit and Dallas have that game forever? Is that just the way that works?
The way that I see it for the NFL, I think you have to keep the Cowboys on Thursday, because whether or not you like or hate the Cowboys, they get ratings. And I'm not saying you really need help with ratings in the NFL in the middle of the week when there's nothing else on TV besides maybe the occasional college basketball game on Thanksgiving. But for the most part, people watch Cowboy games. It's just the way it is. It's the way it probably will always be. And for that reason, I feel like you have to keep the Cowboys there on Thanksgiving, because you're guaranteed to generate millions of views, when the NFL, paying such a premium product to have games on that Thursday, they need as much ratings as possible. So the Cowboys, I think you can keep. The Lions, I don't know if they should ever be on television. No offense to Detroit, but I get that it's a tradition. I get the fact that they're a very, prideful area. That team
Oh,
stinks.
I see what you did there. Little Pride of Lions. Pride. Oh, nice.
Yeah, a little bit. But I think you can make the argument that they should never be on national television, and I really don't think anybody would. I don't want to sound harsh, but that's extremely harsh, but I feel like that's also accurate. So, sorry, I
Well,
guess.
I don't think you can pull one and not pull the other.
That's what I'm saying. You pretty much have to keep both because of the tradition and the tendency to keep both. But I think if you had to go to one of the two, it would be Detroit. Now, if you're talking about the inherent advantage on Thanksgiving, I don't think the advantage is mostly for the Cowboys playing on Thursday, and the advantage is the constantly weak opponents they're playing on Thanksgiving. It seems like they're always playing the Redskins on Thanksgiving when they're not. They played Tampa a while back. The one time they played a tough team on Thanksgiving was when they played the Bills and they lost last year. But for the most part, they're playing a bottom feeder on Thanksgiving pretty much every year.
Okay. All right. Yeah, well, yeah. Usually, it's usually a division opponent, and
Usually either the Giants or the Redskins, and the Eagles occasionally, but not that often. Usually they save those games for a Sunday night or so. So I agree that Thursday night's an inherent advantage in itself, but I don't think it's as big of an advantage as playing the bottom feeders in your division or just the league in general to pick up almost a free win at home.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. All right. So let's take a look here at the NFC South. Of course, the division winner, the class of the division last year, is also the class of the division this year. That is the New Orleans Saints. By the way, the NFC South this year matches up with the NFC North and the AFC West. So should be some interesting games there, to say the least. That's tough. That's two pretty tough gets for this division. The Saints, they first place schedule. They also catch the 49ers and the aforementioned Eagles from Philadelphia. Pretty hefty prices on the Saints, minus 360 to see Drew Brees lead them back to the promised land. And if you wanted to bet against them, if you're drunk or some sort of substance abuse problem, the no would be plus 300 if you so desired to do that. I got nothing there. I don't think the 360s. I'd be tempted to lay 360. I don't see the Saints collapsing in any way, shape, or form. Scott, your thoughts there?
For me, I definitely think the Saints are the favorites to win the division. I know that people want to jump on the Buccaneers bandwagon. Yeah, they got 43-year-old Brady and a retired tight end who came out of retirement, and still have no secondary. So, I guess Gronk's going to play defense. I think that if you were going to lean one away for value on this division, it would have to be the Buccaneers to not make the playoffs, just because I think that they're overvalued in pretty much every single marketplace you can find.
Same play that I love. Absolutely. I got it at plus 240. What do you got?
240 looks like the best line that is available at this point in time. I see plus 225 on one book, which is worse than plus 240. Plus 240 seems to be the best line available for the no. Am I saying the Buccaneers are going to miss the playoffs? I'm not saying that either. What I'm saying is that if you're looking for a pure value play, which you might be able to set you up with a hedge opportunity, maybe in week 16 or 17, I think that's a decent way to look. I think that if you're going, general rule of thumb, if you're going to be betting on teams to miss the playoffs, you pretty much have to bet on a team that is not the favorite to win the division. Because at least in my opinion, because I feel like if you are going to bet against them to miss the playoffs, I think the Saints are almost a lock to make the playoffs. They're just so consistent every year. I think they choke in the playoffs every year at home, yes, but they make it to the playoffs, and that's all we're talking about. Buccaneers, even though you have a couple of guys who have been there before multiple times, the rest of the roster, not really. So you're just trusting a relative unknown unit that has played a lot of meaningless games over the course of their careers to suddenly play meaningful games, and they're just going to immediately pick it up and win 10, 11 games. I'm a little bit skeptical of that. I think Tampa Bay should win 9 to 10 games, which makes them a fringe playoff team to begin with. So for value, I'd have to lean to the no Tampa Bay just because of the fact that I feel like every marketplace is overvaluing them. So for that reason, for the attractive value play there would be the no on Tampa Bay.
Yeah, that's probably my favorite play on the board as well. I think Tampa Bay is the 2020 version of the 2019 Cleveland Browns. I think they've been overvalued by the market. We've talked ad nauseum about whether we think Brady is done or not. And I think the best conclusion we've come up with is he's probably done-ish.
Not as bad as Rivers or any of those guys, but it's going to get worse before it gets better for Brady.
Agreed.
That's a lock.
Agreed. And the nice thing that Tampa Bay does have going in their favor is they do catch, as far as their third place schedule goes, that gives them the Rams and the Giants.
That's a split. I think they'll lose. They might lose to the Rams there, but that's honestly tough. They could win.
Yeah,
they could. They should. They're going to beat the Giants. I mean, that's a given.
They certainly should beat the Giants. I don't have whether that Rams game is home or away. To me, that's going to make all the difference in the world. I'm not too impressed with the Rams team. We'll talk about them here in a minute. So, yeah, you and I both like plus 240 for the Tampa Bay not to make the playoffs. And again, we're not saying they're not going to make the playoffs. We're saying it's probably, to me, that's I think they're about a 50-50 team to make the playoffs. I think the odds should be minus 110 on each side as far as that goes. So I think catching mid 200s there as far as value goes is a good play. That's
I mean, we're going to get to some of these teams in the future, but the NFC, they might be a bit top heavy just based on the quality of teams at the top. But I think you can agree that with all the fringe playoff teams available in that conference, it's going to be a dogfight between probably around 4 or 5 teams.
Yeah,
Will the Buccaneers be one of them?
Value.
Yeah, will the Buccaneers be one of them? Yes. Are they a lock to make it? No, of course not.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Especially if you like 2 teams from the East to go. When you start taking up spots. That really just if you still think the Saints are the class of the division, you think 2 teams from the East are going to go, that leaves them fighting for just 1 playoff spot.
And I think you're pretty much a lock to get 2 West teams in. So
there you go.
It's going to be
there.
Tough.
You go. So basically, if you think the Eagles and Cowboys are going to go, and you don't see any way that you can fade Seattle and San Francisco, ain't a lot of room at the end for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It may take 11 wins to win a wild card spot this year in the NFC. I don't know. We'll have to see. I think 10 will get you close. I don't know. This is a 10-win team. Again, we'll find out hopefully soon enough. Scott, any interest in the bottom feeders there of that division? You got the Falcons, 300 no, 250 yes, and of course then the Panthers. They are completely almost off the board at no minus 1,000.
No.
Anybody going to sneak up on you there?
No. I think that Atlanta is always going to be the dark horse candidate to make a run by everybody. Every year, it's the same thing. Ever since they won a Super Bowl, they were winning division titles all the time. Back when they even had what the hell was his name? Was it Mike Smith as their coach?
Yeah, Mike Smith was their coach when they went to the –
Okay, it was Mike Smith. I knew his last name. I wanted to make sure it was Mike Smith. Anyway, they used to win the division all the time. They'd lose in the playoffs. Then they brought in Dan Quinn, made a Super Bowl. And ever since they made a Super Bowl, people expect this team to figure it out once again, and it's not going to happen. Because the truth is, Matt Ryan had an extreme outlier season and had a career year, and he's reverted back to his normal self, and people are shocked that he is not as dominant as he was for 1 year. It reminds me a lot of Ron Rivera with Carolina. They made a Super Bowl 1 year, and people thought, Cam Newton, he's going to be a top 3 quarterback in the league. And they forgot the fact that he's mostly inaccurate, and teams figured out the offense, and now he was mediocre, and they got rid of him. So, of course, it was different with Newton because he had injury issues, but the general sentiment stands, which is just because this team was really good roughly 5 years ago doesn't mean that they're going to rechannel some of that fire that they had during that time period. Dan Quinn probably should have been fired last year. They brought him back, and now people think, on paper, this team, no, it doesn't. This team does not look pretty good. It's the same team every year. Just stop it. You might fire Dan Quinn halfway through the year. Best case scenario, you're the third best team or second best team in the division. You're not better than the Saints. And Carolina, I really like what they did during the offseason, but you can tell when Rule took the job, this is probably a 3-year rebuild,
Yeah.
give or take. So not really interested. A lot of people will take Atlanta because they're just going to say, well, Julio Jones, Matt Ryan, how do I say no? And the answer is you say no because this team just isn't that good.
No, they have two. They have a superstar and they have two good players. They have
what's their secondary? You lost Desmond Trufant. You drafted A.J. Terrell, who probably should have been a fringe first rounder, early second rounder. You have no secondary at all. Keanu Neal is good, but he's injured every year. You got Deion Jones, a very good linebacker who's injured all the time. And you also lost Vic Beasley, and now your saving grace is Todd Gurley. Good luck. That's all I'm saying. Don't do it. Just stay away from the light. That's my advice for you there.
Very good. All right. So moving on, we are halfway done here. Let's take a look at the NFC North. The NFC North, they match up with the South this year, the AFC South and the NFC South. Starting at the top of the food chain there, Green Bay Packers. They catch no breaks as far as their first place schedule goes. In addition to playing the teams from the South, they also play the San Francisco 49ers and the Philadelphia Eagles. Packers, minus 220 to make the playoffs, plus 180 not to make the playoffs. I wrote that down wrong. It should be plus 180. Scott, anything keeps the Packers from rolling through here?
For me, based on the value, I'm actually going to be leaning to the Packers, and the main on the no, and the main reason is just based on the lines of the marketplace. 180 is an absolute steal. If you look on Fox Bet, for example, the no's plus 115. You look at DraftKings, the no's plus 118. You look at FanDuel, and the no is plus 116, and BetOnline has plus 180. So that's kind of a blind play if you're just looking solely for value, because you're getting roughly 60 extra cents for the no there. The main thing you have to wonder, this team was 1 game away from making the Super Bowl, and I feel like they were the most unimpressive team for the entire season. And people kept looking at the standings going, how are the Packers 13-3? What's going on? And then they had, by far, in my opinion, the worst draft in the entire league. They pretty much did nothing to address any needs that they had by drafting a quarterback who's not going to be playing the season, a running back who's probably not going to be playing the season, and a tight end who they're converting to fullback in the 3rd round. So they did basically nothing to help their roster. And I think the Vikings got better. I think the Bears are going to get better if they actually use Foles. I don't know if they will, but if they do, they should play better. So I think for value, plus 180 in a marketplace that's mostly plus 120, that's almost a blind play for me. I feel like you have to take the value where you can find it, and that's a value play right there.
Yeah, you're getting 50% boost in your value there. It's not an awful play. So then the other sites, does the yes correspond? So what do you have the yes on the Packers with the other sites?
Mostly around minus 140.
See, I think that's where the value is. I think the value is on the yes side. I still like the Packers in this division.
Well, you said yes at minus 220. So I'm saying that there's a lot of discrepancies in the marketplace between BetOnline and some of the local books in the East Coast. So from the line that you're getting there, you could honestly middle it if you really wanted to. I mean, you're not going to get much money, but you automatically win. So you can look that way. Or you could potentially take a win total under and then a playoff spot. Something along those lines. You could try to find a middle that you find fit. But plus 180, I can't say no to that. That's too attractive.
I don't hate that as a middle opportunity right there. Playing yes at minus 120 and no at plus 180. That works okay for me. All right, so let's move on. This is the only 50-50 team on the board. I've got the Vikings at minus 110 on each side. Vikings catch no breaks at all in their second place schedule as they match up with the Seahawks and the Cowboys, in addition to the Western division for each of the other 2 leagues or conferences rather. This is a team that you like. You like them at yes minus 110? You think that's a good play right there?
I do. Now, the one concerning factor is the amount of primetime games Kirk Cousins is going to have to play this season, which is not a good sign. They've made that joke numerous times, but until he actually wins a Monday Night Football game, I'm going to keep making the joke. I think they're the most talented team in the division. And I think you can make the argument saying Aaron Rodgers and how he's significantly better than Cousins, and I understand all that. Is Rodgers the same guy that he used to be? No. But he's still very good. I still think he's the best quarterback in the division. But the issue that I have with Green Bay is their receiving core any good? Do they do anything to address the receiving core needs? No. Is their defense good? I think the Vikings defense is better than the Packers defense. And I think that the Packers offensive line is also, I'd say, maybe slightly average at best. And I feel like that's putting it politely. I think they're okay. I don't think they're a great unit. I think the Vikings offensive line's better. So from top to bottom, yes, Cousins as a starting quarterback is a potential issue because I think he's a mediocre quarterback, an Alex Smith type, so to speak, where you're not really happy he's your quarterback, but there are a lot worse options available for you. So from top to bottom, I think the Vikings are the best team in the division. So for that reason, I would take the yes.
Okay. All right. Well,
I know you're more pessimistic on Cousins and stuff like that, but I think you can agree that from an overall roster depth perspective, they're probably the best team in the division.
Well, I don't know that I agree with that. I mean, they
Top
lost.
two? Do you agree top two?
Yeah, I do agree top two. They lost. They lost Stephon Diggs. I think that's going to.
They got Jefferson though. They did replace him. It's not the same, but they did address that issue. Unlike the Packers, who just decided we're going to keep the same receivers who did basically nothing last year and just bring him back.
I don't know if they were just actively trying to piss off Aaron Rodgers. I really, we talk ad nauseum about that.
You don't think that's a distraction that's potentially concerning? The entire offseason just seems like they tried to piss off their star quarterback. And I don't know how you're supposed to be successful when you have a huge elephant in the room.
Well, they let Brian Beluga walk too. That's the other thing. They let
Bulaga, that's what I meant. The offensive line for the Packers. Bulaga's been injured for the last couple of years. He hasn't been healthy for a while, but he still, when healthy, a pretty solid offensive lineman. Now that he's gone, he has some question marks there, especially with Rodgers being less mobile as he's gotten up in years. So I think it's a toss-up. I think that even if you agree the Packers are the best division, even if you think – I don't agree, but even if you think the Packers are still the best team in the division, you can agree that it's close to a toss-up. It's pretty close.
Yeah. Yeah, there's probably more disparity there. Certainly at minus 220, I don't think if you look at Bet Online where you have minus 220 on the Packers, minus 110 on the Vikings, I don't think the Packers are twice as likely.
Correct.
To make the playoffs. So that's what the numbers
I think both those lines should be closer to maybe minus 125. Okay. Maybe Packers at minus 125, Vikings at minus 120. I think it's actually that close. But that's why for that number with the Packers and how LaFleur's teams last year seemed to only be good for one half before they would be awful in the second half every single game, I'm going to take the no on the Packers just because 180 with a team that has a system that I feel like teams are going to figure out the second time around and a really pissed off star quarterback, not exactly a prime recipe for success.
Yeah, it certainly does set up for a disappointing Packers year. I do agree with that. Take a look at those Bears. How about them Bears, buddy? Minus 190 on the no side. That's a pretty strong statement there that they think the Bears are in a lot of trouble. The Bears add the Rams and the Giants as far as their third place schedule there goes. Nothing intimidating about that. That should be at least one win there for the Monsters of the Midway. Yeah, I don't like anything there. Plus 165 on the yes side. That's not nearly enough value for me. I'm a pass on the Bears. Scott, any Bears interest?
It's a pass. The main prop that we keep talking about for the Bears is Trubisky to start week one because of the number that's currently available. If Trubisky starts week one, the team's not making the playoffs. And I know that Bears fans keep pulling out their hair just because they just got Nick Foles and you finally think the Trubisky experiment's over. It's not. Ryan Pace knows he's probably going to get fired, and it seems like he put all his chips in the Trubisky basket, and he missed every straight and flush draw that he had. He missed everything. Odds are both of his opponents have a set. He's basically drawing dead, and he's just trying to get by on some runner miracle stuff. So
he finally got 2 pair, but he's just going to go ahead and fold.
he's got 2 pair on a 4-card flush draw board, and somebody just raised them all in. That's basically what's happened here. It's not looking good for him, and it probably shouldn't, because that Trubisky trade is one of the worst trades I've ever seen.
Here's a fun fact. Did you know the Bears actually traded up to take Trubisky when they could have had Pat Mahomes or Deshaun Watson?
It's a fun fact that people forget about. And when I say people forget about, I mean nobody forgets about. And
no one that listens to this show will forget about it, because I'm going to remind them every time they mention the Bears.
Yeah, now the silver lining there is that the 49ers used the draft pick to draft the Boston Solomon Thomas, but they still got extra picks out of it. And Chicago still drafted the worst quarterback out of the 3 that were taken in the first round immediately. So, not great. But
it
I think
we
both think that Pace is in too deep, and he's probably going to stay with Trubisky, at least for the beginning. And I think that's more likely going to blow up in their face than it's going to get better. And even Foles, with a new system, didn't really show much in Jacksonville to make me believe that he's going to bring this team sudden success. So I'm going to pass. And the Lions, I don't even want to talk about them. So
you know what? I do. If you're gonna lay some wood, I think this is a team that is definitely wood worthy. What do you have the no at for the Lions on your sites?
I'm gonna ask what you have on yours first, because I got 3 sites to look through.
I've got minus 425.
Okay, so mine is not that bad in terms of lines. It's mostly around minus 330.
Oh, I'll stand in the line to make that bet.
Yeah, it's mostly around 330.
I love that play. I love that play. This is a team that is unquestionably the worst team in the division.
Yeah.
For them to make the playoffs would involve a confluence of events that probably has not been seen in quite some time. I like that play. That's probably my if we had a segment called "Lay in the Wood" play of the day.
We got the Giants. We got the Giants and the Lions. Those are pretty much our 2 lay the wood plays.
Yep. I would stand in line to play the Giants minus 330, not to make the playoffs, or the Lions rather, not to make the playoffs, and the Giants as well. So they add the. By the way, if you're interested, they add the Cardinals and the Redskins.
The issue with the Lions is that every game you look at the schedule, are you confident in them to win any games? Besides maybe the Redskins, maybe. And the only game I'd feel confident with them winning would be against Jacksonville. And I'm not even sure if they play Jacksonville.
They do. They play the AFC South and the NFC South. So that means they get the Panthers and Jacksonville.
I like the Panthers in that game. And I think that if you're going to take the line to make the playoffs, you'd be better off just taking the money line pretty much in half of their games, because they're going to be underdogs in probably about 75% of their games. So in terms of value to make the playoffs, we already said you're going to have to go roughly 10-6. So if you think the Lions are going to win 10 games, that means they're probably going to have to win at least 6 or 7 games as an underdog. So you're probably better off just betting the money line.
Yeah, well, that's not a bad thing if you wanted to play it that way as well.
So. I wouldn't do that either. But I'm saying if you had the choice between the two, I'd probably lean to the money line. That defense is terrible, and there's no other way to put it. I know Akuta's really good. I think he's going to be a phenomenal player. But you lost Darius Slay, so they're basically a wash. And your linebacking core is okay. Your defensive line's not great. Your receivers are really good. And Stafford's coming off a serious back and neck injury. So, and you got Matt Patricia.
Yeah, no. That's hard pass for me.
Yeah.
All right, let's take a look at the NFC West here. NFC West matches up with the East Coast boys from each conference as they match up with the AFC East and the NFC East. In addition, the 49ers get to add the Packers and the Saints. A couple of good games there, but they are still been made a prohibitive favorite to make the playoffs. I've got them at minus 500, and this is the only bet that BetOnline did not have available. They did not have a number as far as the no goes on the 49ers. I'm going to guess it's somewhere in the neighborhood of 450 based on that 500. Scott, any value here with the 49ers?
Well, I see a huge market discrepancy here, so I'm just going to mention it. The 49ers on Fox Bet are minus 400 to make the playoffs. FanDuel 49ers are minus 410. DraftKings 49ers minus 305. Give me the 305.
Yeah, that'd be tempting. I don't I don't like anything 400 or higher, but man, minus 305.
I'd lay the wood there. I think this team, I know that it's tough for a team to get to back-to-back Super Bowls, and I know that we've seen one team not even not make it to the Super Bowl again, but not make the playoffs again after making it to the Super Bowl. There's no way that I think the 49ers are not going to win 11 games. And the main reason why, I think they're favored in roughly 15 of 16 games. And I don't know where their losses are going to come from. You got to assume that one of them will be from Seattle, because Seattle always pulls off some miracle stuff against them, even though I think the 49ers are the significantly better team. You have one matchup against New England, and New England's not the same. It's in New England, but I mean, realistically, the 49ers should be favored going to that game when they actually get up to that week. They play Sunday night or Monday night against the Cowboys in Dallas. That game's a pick'em. I like the 49ers there also. The question you have to wonder is this coaching staff going to abandon all faith on Garoppolo? And I think even if they do, the team's just going to run the ball down your throat anyway, and this team is the best defense in the entire league. Right. So the team's built to win 11, 12 games. So I don't know how they don't make the playoffs, barring a serious injury to about 5 different players. I'll take the yes at minus 305.
Yeah, I like that. I don't think there's any value on the no there at all. This is a team that is built to win with a quarterback even worse than Garoppolo. So I think Garoppolo will be fine to get this team to the playoffs. Will they get back to the Super Bowl? That's another question. We'll find out how far
you get basically $1 of value. It's minus 400 everywhere else, and you can get minus 305. I think you pretty much have to play that as well, just based on the number you can get.
Yeah, you're talking about roughly 30% overlay there. That's hard to pass up. Totally agree. So then it gets interesting in the NFC West there. So this is the division. I think you and I both agree they're probably going to send 2 teams to the playoffs. Most likely, the second team will be the Seattle Seahawks. Seattle Seahawks. They draw a pretty good stick here, playing the second place schedule against the Falcons and the Vikings. So in addition to the East Coast teams, I think there's a lot of wins there for the Seahawks as well. Yes is minus 150. No is plus 130 on that one. I've got a slight lean to the no on the Seahawks, but only because I've got a dark horse in this division. But I think what do you like? You like the Seahawks to be the second team coming out of the West?
Well, just to be clear, if you want to shop around, FanDuel has the Seahawks to make the playoffs at minus 122. You can save roughly 30 cents of juice there. And I feel like at that number, they're probably worth a play on the yes. However, every year I look at the Seahawks on paper and go, this team should win 7 games. Every year. And then Russell Wilson will go through some ridiculous thing on primetime television, and he'll run around the pocket, he'll throw 2 or 3 touchdowns in the fourth quarter, and they'll win double-digit games, and they'll be 1 yard away from winning the division. I have no idea how they were 1 yard away from winning the division last year. 49ers were significantly the better team on paper. And yet Russell Wilson and Pete Carroll do some type of, I don't know if it's voodoo or witchcraft or what they're doing over there. Something's in the water, and this team tends to win 10 games or more. I'm going to pass. And the main reason why is I don't think there's much value on it, but this team's defense last year, the defensive line was awful in terms of sacks, and now they lost Clowney. This defensive line is awful. Yeah. The offensive line is always terrible. So they can't win anything in the trenches. The running game's usually pretty good, especially with Carson, and even Penny emerged a little bit late in the year. But you're basically banking on Russell Wilson to bail you out of 4 games every year. And from that perspective, I can't take this price. So even at minus 122, that's where you should take it if you like the yes. Pass.
Yeah, I certainly like their offense better than I like their defense. Their defense is definitely having some issues. I like DK Metcalf quite a bit. We talked about him last week. He's one of my favorites as far as an up and comer goes. But Tyler Lockett.
I like Lockett, but that's just, and they also got Greg Olsen, so they do have some weapons in the passing.
I don't think Tyler Lockett is an exemplary number 1 receiver.
He's not. But he's still pretty good. But the Greg Olsen should help with the passing game, so that's definitely an upgrade. At the tight end.
Greg Olsen like 50 now.
He could be, but he still puts up numbers. So he's younger than Jason Witten. I'll tell you that much.
Well, good point. So now we get into the bottom 2. I don't see any value on the Rams. I got the Rams at minus 170 for no, plus 150 for yes. Neither one of that. You know what? I wouldn't be stunned to see the Rams make the playoffs. I don't think they will.
They should be plus 180, give or take.
I agree. They've still got a decent defense. So
do you trust Goff?
No.
Is their offensive line any good?
No, we talked about that, and that's
what I'm saying. It's just it's a question of, can this defense, I don't want to say pull at Steelers last year because they almost made the playoffs with Duck Hodges and Mason Rudolph. It's not that bad.
Yeah, their offense isn't.
Yeah, but the issue you have is that you're playing in the toughest division in football, and you have no offensive line, and your quarterback is a borderline potential fraud. Not exactly what you're looking for a playoff.
Really, fraud is a 1-1, wasn't he? He was a 1-1, wasn't he?
For the most part, yeah. He went first pick in the draft in the Pac-12. It was awful his first year with Jeff Fisher. They brought in McVay, looked like a genius, made the Super Bowl. Year 2 was terrible. And the thing you have to wonder, I do think they're going to look more balanced, though, because Gurley's no longer there. So I do think that Gurley was potentially holding them back last year because he just couldn't move. But this offensive line is still a joke. So you have to wonder about that. I think the Rams will probably win 8 games, give or take. I still really like McVay. I'm pretty sure I'm a lot higher on McVay than you are. From what I remember, I think you're not a big McVay guy. I am. I think McVay's a really good coach. So I think that it wouldn't surprise me if they would potentially be a contender, especially with that just defense. The defensive line's still really good. You still got Jalen Ramsey, who, even being a head case, is probably a top 2 corner in the entire league. So you have some pieces there which could work out. But I think losing Corey Littleton was huge, as he was the number 1 coverage linebacker. So I think they're probably going to go 8-8. So I'm going to pass, but I would not be surprised to see this team go 10-6.
All right, so here's my dark horse. Here's my shocker. I've got the Cardinals at plus 210 to make the playoffs. I'm taking it. How about that? That's my bold shot.
I would tell you to probably shop around for a better line, but
I'm guessing you could get a better line on that in some places.
Yes, you can. I'm trying to find the exact number that you can get here. So the best number is on Fox Bet, and you can get that at plus 275.
I was going to say 250 to 280. Yeah, I like that. I think this is a team that is up and coming. Yeah, they are in a tough division, and again, it's something that's probably not going to happen. But I think at that price, especially 250 or better, I'm going to take a little flyer on this team. I think Kyler Murray is going to be the real deal. We'll see how the defense plays out. We'll see how the offensive line, how much better they got. There are a lot of questions with this team, and that's why you're getting a good price on them, quite frankly. I'm interested to see what a full year of Kenyon Drake does, along with some of the weapons that they have at the wide receiver position. So give me a little spin on the Arizona Cardinals. Scott, you coming with me?
No.
Plenty of room on the bandwagon, buddy.
I'm good.
Okay.
But the main reasons why I am not on the Cardinals here, a couple of reasons. But the first reason, even though it's plus 275, based on their division and based on the preseason projections, this line should be in the 300s. And you have to think about this conceptually. If we roasted the Giants and the Lions, now I know that those two teams are awful.
Awful.
Conceptually speaking, they are the worst team in their respective division. And their division is not nearly as tough as the NFC West. So you're taking the no on 2 most likely 4th place teams, or even 3rd place teams, at minus 360 when they have another awful team or one below average team in their division. The Lions, not so much so, because that division is pretty good. Bears are iffy, but they're a wild card, so to speak. I'll compare it to the Giants. You know that the Redskins are terrible. So you know that the Giants might have 2 free wins on their schedule, which could help them out. If you wanted to make the argument.
Yes.
What free wins do the Cardinals have?
What three wins on their schedule?
No, what free wins do you have? Every game in your division is a borderline coin flip.
That's right. Yeah, I know. There's no weak sister in your division to beat up on. I'm counting on them to take care of business in the AFC East. I think there's a good chance that they go at least 2-2, perhaps 3-1 in the AFC East. And I think they could certainly do the same thing in the NFC East. I think they beat the Giants. I think they beat the Redskins. And I think they split with the Cowboys and the Eagles.
I don't know. The way that I see it is that if the Giants are plus 333 to make the playoffs ballpark range, and the NFC East is terrible, and the Cardinals are the much better team, but they're playing in a borderline impossible division, and they're projected, according to win totals, to be the worst team in the division, the Cardinals should probably be somewhere around plus 305.
Okay. Well,
just from a line perspective, it should be 300 or so.
Of course, the Cardinals also get the Lions, and they also get the Panthers.
Well, that helps. But if you're really comparing division games, I think you can agree to win the division. The Cardinals will probably have to go, like 4-2 in the division
to win the division,
or to I'd say to make the playoffs. You have to go 3-3.
Yeah, they need to get to 10. So if you count Detroit and Carolina as 2, if they split against the East, so that now they're 6-4. So they need to go 4-2 to get to 10 wins. Yeah,
that's
okay.
what I said.
Yeah.
I don't know how they're going to do that, because if you look at every game they play in division, and you go look at this on BetOnline, because BetOnline has all of the weeks set up for you in advance. Wouldn't you just
be underdogs?
Wouldn't you just be better off taking the money line in those games?
Yeah, I suppose you would.
I said that about the Lions. I feel like if you think they're going to win a bunch of games as underdogs, just bet them as an underdog.
Yeah, you're right. That's certainly one way to play it. That's not. It kind of goes away from the spirit of what we're doing today.
I know, but the whole point is I try to view things from a value perspective, and I feel like 275 is a little bit too short.
Okay, and yeah, you can certainly make a case there that if you wanted to wait for 3, yeah, okay. I just think there's a little value on this team. I like this team. This is probably not their year. I think next year is probably going to be the year they supplant Seattle. But I just think if you're looking for a team, if you're looking for a last place team to make a move, and every year there's a team that inexplicably comes out of nowhere that improves by 5 or 6 games, I think this could be your team. That's all I'm saying.
That is fair.
Okay. All right. There you go. All right. And that makes it fun. So yeah, that was a kind of an interesting look. There are a lot of nothing too earth shattering there, but it is always fun to kind of break down the schedule.
Before we wrap up, do you want to recap some of our favorite plays from the board?
Sure, absolutely. For those people that don't watch the entire video, that just run to the end.
For those of you who just fast forward to the last 5 minutes, how's it going? Hope your day's going well.
Okay, so in the East, you like the Eagles. I like the Cowboys. You think 2 teams make it from that division. I think the Eagles are shut out, right?
Just for the sake of it, by the way, for the actual wager perspective, I have no interest in playing either the Eagles or the Cowboys. We were just talking about what my thoughts were for the division.
Right.
There are a couple of plays I like a lot more than the Eagles and Cowboys.
Well, one of those is the Giants, as we had them at the no at minus 380, right?
I believe it was 360.
360.
It's at 360 on the no on DraftKings.
Okay, so both of us think that is tremendous value for a Giants team.
I'm playing that for 3.6 units.
Yeah, that has almost no chance of going to the playoffs there.
What was the line for the Lions again?
The Lions were Lions no was minus 425.
Okay, and I got my line was in the 300s. I'm just trying to find the exact number.
Yeah, you had a better price than I think. You had 380.
Lions were 330.
330. That's right. Oh, that's right. That's
also a play.
Yeah, that's again tremendous value with a team that almost has no shot of getting to the playoffs there.
Yeah, so both of those, there's juice attached to it. And I know you can make the argument saying, well, why would I want to lay the wood? And the answer is you shouldn't do that until you actually know there's going to be a season played on time. You don't want it to be on a hold in your account. But assuming that everything's going to start normally and assuming these lines don't move, you can take these, I don't know, the opening like a week before the season starts maybe. But you have to wonder from a value perspective, the Giants and the Lions to make the playoffs, to not make the playoffs, should be somewhere in the minus 450 range.
I agree. Yes, absolutely. Yep. And then coming out of we're taking a look at the North.
I mentioned the Packers, no, just for value, but that was because you had them at minus 180. You had them at plus 180 on Bet Online to not make the playoffs. So market wide, I'll play that. I'd play that for a unit as well.
And you and I kind of disagree on the placement of the Packers and the Vikings.
I can't say no to that line. Plus 180 in a marketplace of plus 120 is just too good to pass up.
Yeah, you're getting 50% better value there at one side versus another.
I have
we kind of disagree. You think the Vikings are the class. I still think the Packers are the elite team in that division.
Yeah. I'm not touching the Vikings though at minus 1. I feel like if you really think the Vikings are going to be the class, you could just take the Packers at plus 180.
And nothing much surprising out of the South. Neither one of us were too interested in the Saints. Just not enough.
Well, we
value.
both like Tampa Bay no for value.
We both like Tampa Bay no. I've got them at
that was
plus 240 was the good number there. And that's probably our favorite. Well, I don't know. There's 3 no's that I really like.
My favorite play is on the Giants because market wide it's roughly minus 410, and I can get or minus 450, and I can get it at 330.
Yeah.
That's my favorite play. You're getting over $1.
Yep, you're right. Hard to pass for value just strictly on the Giants. Lions probably my second favorite play, and I think this would be my third favorite play here as far as
this is my favorite value play from a plus line.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think this team is way overvalued. I think Tom Brady is way overvalued. Yeah, I'll say it.
I think this team's ceiling is 10-6.
And it ain't 10 years ago, kid.
Yeah, I think if your ceiling is 10-6, then you shouldn't be an overwhelming favorite to make the playoffs.
No, totally agree. Yeah, best case scenario with Bruce Arians and Tom Brady, Rob Gronkowski, everything goes right on the offensive side of the ball. They do have some weapons on offense. Make no mistake.
And their defense is terrible.
This is a defense that struggles. They struggle to stop the pass. All right. Teams do have a hard time running against them. As we've talked about before, they don't have to. They don't have to run against Tampa Bay because they're so dreadful in pass coverage, with the exception of Shaq Lawson there, who can put a little pressure on the quarterback.
Barrett.
Or Shaq Barrett. I always do that.
And they got Ndamukong Suh back, so they got some familiar faces. But as a whole, are they going to win? The issue that you have is kind of – I don't want to compare it to the Cowboys, but what I said before is that the Cowboys have to win games one way. That's by scoring a ton of points. Tampa Bay might be forced to get into a bunch of shootouts with Tom Brady. And I don't know if that's what you want to do to win consistently in the NFL. No,
if we're going to have – I got to be honest with you. If you're going to have a team in shootouts, I'd rather have Jameis Winston behind center than I would Tom Brady.
I think that's tough because you're guaranteed to give the other team at least 3 possessions inside your 25-yard line. So it's kind of a tough call.
You got a team that you got a quarterback that can throw further than 25 yards too.
That's fair. But
All right, so we both love the Lions price. Bet Online had it at minus 420. You had much better value there on the Lions. No,
that was 330.
Yeah, that's a tremendous get there. And then out west, we had we both agree that the Niners are going to make it. You didn't like anything about the Niners, did you?
I did because I found the line.
You have a little no play there.
DraftKings had the yes at minus 305 and market wise.
Oh, that's right.
Roughly it's minus 400 elsewhere. Now, some of you can say and argue in the comment section, well, all you're taking is chalk. That's not the point. The point is that if you find something that's extremely chalk in one book and it's only mediocre chalk in another book, you're getting value no matter what. So it doesn't really matter how big the minus is.
No, it doesn't. No, in fact, I had him at minus 500 at Bet Online.
You can make the argument if you were taking a boxing fighter, for example, and the line was minus 2,000 in one book and minus 800 on the other book, there's still value on the minus 800.
Yes.
So it's not as attractive because you're laying out a ton of cash, but I got to play that as well.
And I will say, the argument's going to be, well, I don't want to tie up that much of my bankroll early in the season. Well,
don't take it. Just wait it out.
You also need a bigger bankroll.
Correct. Okay? You can wait. Yeah. You should have a portion of your bankroll dedicated to futures.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely.
But I'm saying if you wanted to take these futures, wait until you know there's going to be a season. Wait until everything's going to be set up. Potentially take it a week before because this line's probably not going to move anytime soon. But if you wanted to know, my favorite play is going to be the Giants on the no at minus 360. I'll play all of these to win a unit. So Giants no on minus 360. Lions no on minus 330.
With you.
49ers yes at minus 305.
Yeah, play that.
Those are all in DraftKings. Other than that, I like the Packers no.
Tampa Bay. We're at Tampa Bay.
Yeah, I'm going to get to that. I like the Packers no at plus 180 just because of the line. I'll play that for 1 unit for value. We disagree there, but I like it for the value. I like the Buccaneers no for 1 unit just because of plus 240. I think that line is a little bit too high. And I think that's it.
Okay, and the only thing that I had is a little shot at the Cardinals to be one of those breakthrough teams. I had them at plus 210. Yeah, it's a tall mountain to climb in the Western Division there, but every year 2 or 3 teams break through. They have a 5 or 6 game improvement. I think the Cardinals are a candidate to do that in Kyler Murray's sophomore season.
Yeah, and I mentioned a bunch of other teams that are borderlines. Vikings, Eagles, Cowboys, stuff like that. They're borderline, but at the end of the day, I feel like there's more value elsewhere. So I don't really want to include those props.
All right. There you go, bud. Well, 1 down, 1 to go. We'll do the AFC East tomorrow. Should be fun. And hopefully one of these days we're going to come on and we're going to say that the NFL is that finalized everything. Everything's in place. The same with baseball. So, we'll see what happens. I think things are starting to move, Scott. I think we're going to have some movement. It's already Wednesday, so I won't necessarily say this week, but I think in 10 days, by the end of next week, we are going to have a lot better idea about what's going to happen with MLB and the NFL. That's my prediction.
I'm inclined to agree with you, but you never know. Hopefully you're right.
All right, we'll find out. Until then, we'll be back to do the AFC tomorrow. As always, we appreciate you guys' comments. Let us know what you're playing. Are we crazy? Are we drunk? You think we're out of our mind laying that kind of wood? Whatever it is, let us know your opinion. And, we'll be happy to answer you back and tell you why you're wrong. So there you go. But until then, we appreciate everybody watching. I am Scott Steen. He is Scott Reichel. Don't forget to check out all the good stuff over there at winnersandwhiners.com. Still putting out great content. Got the NASCAR race tonight. Should be a lot of fun. And when we've got some horse racing coming up. We got the big Tiger Woods. We'll be talking about that. So, yeah, we got a full slate coming up for the rest of the week. Make sure you join us. Check that out.
NASCAR.
And, NASCAR, baby. Gentlemen, start those engines. But until then, we are Scots. This is Today in Sports Betting. Thanks for stopping by, and we will see you guys tomorrow. Take care.